Oh, we'll take the lid off.
Okay, welcome back to Good Muscle Radio.
Good Muscle Radio.
Yeah, I am your host, Alex Benjamin. Today we have Jennifer Martin, my amazing mom, on the podcast today. She's a yoga instructor, life coach.
Life coach, Raki practitioner.
Okay.
Breath work facilitator.
Okay. And she is here with me today, and I'm gonna let her kind of talk about, I think, breath work.
Breath work.
In particular, I think people are interested in right now.
Do you?
I think so.
I think so too. Okay, so healing breath work is a breath work technique because there are so many different types of breath work. So this particular breath work that I am facilitating is a 3-part multi-active breath work to help move energy and move stagnant and repressed emotions and feelings and all of those things in order for us to move it up and out. So there's a lot of different kinds of breath work. Some helps to calm your nervous system. We know that when we have an active nervous system, we're in the sympathetic nervous system, which is our flight or fight, or freeze or fawn, they call it. And so, when we're working with people in trauma or that are suffering from anxiety and stress, usually the goal is to bring them into the parasympathetic system. So that rest and digest.
Right.
This breath work is the opposite. So what we're doing, instead of getting people to rest, we're activating the system in order to activate your fight or flight system so that we can, in a safe space, move all of that trauma and all that crap out of the body. So it's something that, as a yoga instructor for the last, 13 years or so, I've been moving people into the parasympathetic system because that's what yoga is: calming, relaxing, moving us into that system. So this is a total opposite. And for people who are yogis or have done breath work, when I explain what this is, a lot of time their immediate response is like, no, no, I'm not doing this.
Why do you think that
Because I think it's because they know, they've been working in this modality of this calmness, and then to actively, knowingly go. It's almost like going into the dark spaces of yourself. Like literally, to me, it feels like walking into a dark forest and just exploring and being with everything that comes up. I mean, we live in a society where we move away from things that are uncomfortable. We don't want to feel uncomfortable. We don't want to feel emotions. We don't want to cry. We don't want to, kind of open that door to invite the dark spaces in. But at the same time, like, in order to heal through those things, like, we have to come face to face with this different kind of awareness and almost like this acceptance and this invitation of like, okay, I'm going to invite whatever comes up to come up. And so lots of times when I start the session, I might say, like, sometimes we have to, like, actively with our voice give ourselves permission. Like, it's okay to feel my emotions. It's okay to be in my body. It's okay to keep breathing and keep moving in that activation, because it's not an easy breath, right? You've tried it.
Yeah.
It is not easy. One, it's a really easy technique once you learn it, and it sounds like something you can do, but once you get into it, like a minute or less into the practice, I mean, it's just like, what the fuck? Why am I doing this? Like, this is hard. I can't do this. And then as the different things start moving and different sensations start happening, then it, but there's always a point in the practice where it's almost like I can see a person like almost coming right up to this threshold that they can either cross or they can stop. Because I invite people, like, you can stop at any point in time. You can slow down your breath. You can move yourself out of it. But there's always a time in the practice where you can just see things starting to come up, and that's when you're just like, I invite people to like just keep breathing. It's almost like showing up for yourself. So like every single time you've abandoned yourself, like in this practice, you're just going to keep breathing for yourself. I don't know, what was your experience? You tell us.
As I'd call myself a fitness enthusiast, there's like this level of like perceived exertion.
Mm-hmm.
So like there's a lot of times when people say like, oh yeah, I train hard. And I at one point thought I also trained hard. And when I went to that private seminar in Tampa with Joe Bennett and Eugene, and we did leg day with them, and they like guided you almost like the same, it's not the same practice obviously, but like take you to the point where you're like, you've already said like your central nervous system and your body and your brain has already said like, I'm done, like I can't do anymore, but you can do more, like your body can still go, like those muscles are still working. And like taking yourself to that point of like, when I go down, like I'm not coming back up from this rep, and having them there to like slowly like pull you out of that hole, but like taking you past that. That was the first time where I was like, oh, I actually don't train very hard, like this is training hard. And so going into that practice, like I've been training for a while now with that kind of like perceived exertion, so like I'm like ready to like go far. Mm-hmm. And where did I get like 10-20 minutes into the,
you did a 30. Oh my gosh. Did you guys hear that? You did a 30, like your total practice was about 36 minutes.
So the breathing,
so your active breath was probably 15. About 26 minutes.
Yeah, and so that was like really intense. But like that push that I'm used to, like I was like, it gets very uncomfortable very quickly.
Yeah, it's almost like less than a minute into it, I think.
Yeah, I think like I was able to do it like I think 5 minutes, and then I was like, okay. But what's it called when?
It's called tetany.
Tetany. So the hands like curl.
Yeah, tetany is when like usually sometimes they call it lobster claws. Like the hands will just like tighten up just like this. Sometimes like this, and sometimes like.
So my hands did that, and then my toes started doing that, and then after that, that's when like it got really difficult to keep the pattern. And then it was going like that threshold, like you cross into it, and that's when you can kind of like sift through like the stuff.
And it's almost like at that point in time, the pattern becomes like this meditation of like
bringing it,
and you just keep, and it's almost sometimes like when I am in the breathing pattern, like my whole hands are just like moving with the breath, and it's just like, and I can slow it down and I can just kind of let the energy move through the body.
Yeah, so I hit a point where I think after, and then you had me breathe normal after I had yelled a few times.
Yeah, because one of the things is encouraging you at a certain point to open your mouth and release sound, because we're releasing energy out of the throat center. Mm-hmm. And so, lots of times, that energy will move. So we're doing this 3-part breath where we're like stirring the pot in the belly, where we hold a lot of emotion, and then we're running it through the heart space where we give compassion, and then we have to open up and like release it. And that's one of the ways of releasing it is yelling or crying or laughing or any of those things. And so sometimes it's really uncomfortable for people, but I think lots of times, if I invite them to do that early in the practice, they're still in their ego mind and their brain, and they're like trying to keep the pattern and don't want to like show an emotion, and then as soon as things start to shift, then it's like, fuck it. And then people
like
are just
after you do it, and then it just starts.
It's like you cannot even control it.
Yeah. And then after that, you went into like a normal, almost like sympathetic breath pattern. And that's when like, it was almost like a hallucinogenic like experience after that. Yeah.
It is a very psychedelic, and there's many different breathing techniques to activate that psychedelic euphoria experience that you can use with the breath. And this is one of them. There's several different people out in the world doing and teaching different kinds of this active breathing. Ours is a 3-part. Sometimes it's just a big inhale and exhale, but it's all open mouth. And it's something about the open mouth because it like starts to over oxygenate the body and over oxygenate the brain and all of that stuff. But it really is like this journey of like turning your ego off and putting your ego in the back seat and allowing your body and your heart to come forward and release. And sometimes people, you get messages, you hear things you need to hear. Like, it is a very, again, psychedelic, euphoric release of energy and emotions and tension that's held up. And lots of times people just feel exhausted. Sometimes they feel really good. Like you felt really energized. Sometimes people are just like, I got to go home and go to bed.
Yeah, I was just like up.
Yeah.
It was great.
It's a very powerful practice. And for me, it has been the only practice that I have found that has allowed me to tap into repressed emotion and energy, because I'm a stuffer and I'm really good at it. And so I have been doing lots of different things, as I've been in the world of studying trauma and how trauma gets stuck in the body. So as someone who knows trauma, that you have to, the issues are in the tissues. Like, you have to move. The energy goes somewhere. The emotions go somewhere. The feelings go somewhere. And usually what we've found through scientific research is that when we hold on to those things, they will get stuck in our body and they'll cause, diabetes, they'll cause heart issues, they cause obesity, they cause all kinds of things, to go wrong in our body because we're holding on to anger or shame or sadness. And so when you can find these somatic techniques and tools to help release all of that past junk, we don't need to even go back and relive the memory, or you don't need to go back and go like, oh, I'm holding tension in my hip because when I was 7, we don't even need to do that. It just doesn't matter. It's there, and we just need to provide space and safety in order to let it come up and out. So I think that's another key thing, is having someone that's going to hold safe space for you to scream and cry and cuss and whatever, and still know that someone is there holding the space for you. So that is also one of those amazing things. So anyways, what I was saying is that it is the first practice that I have found that helped me to put the ego on the back, because even if I am in a learning mode where I'm learning these techniques to take to clients, I'm still not fully in the practice because I've got my ego brain on. I'm like, oh, this is going to be great for all these clients that I work with. And even though I'm trying to experience it myself, it's like my body has a wall up that never lets me experience it. And so this last summer, not this summer that we're in, but last summer, I really started, I got trained in psoas release technique, which is activating the psoas muscle, which is a muscle that holds a lot of emotion. And so when we can fatigue it and activate it and get it into a position where it'll start to tremble, we can release emotion and in that way, because we know that the hips hold a lot of tension. And so when I, was going through training, I'm like, cool, I got this, doing it. And I didn't release anything. Like, when I say I didn't release anything, my body didn't tremble at all. It maybe did that's it. Where everybody else in my practice, they're like, their legs are going like this. And I was like, I got nothing. And then we did the practice the next day. So I was like, okay, I'm going to tremble. Nothing. I was like, what the fuck? So that kind of told me what I already knew, but, I was trying to use a somatic practice that had nothing to do with me, going in and emotionally trying to release this. This was a somatic practice, a physical practice to help release, and I couldn't even do that. And so it was at that point that I was like, all right, I need to find someone to help me. I need to just do all the things that I do for clients, but I need to turn it around and do it for myself and really put myself in there 100%. So I went to a lady in Kansas City, her name's Ren, and we did a 9-week, used Raki, which everything that she used are things that I use. I mean, we drew tarot cards, she did Reiki on me, and we were going to do this breath work. And I'd already known about this technique because I found somebody that I'm working with right now that I love. Her name's Amy. I found her maybe, holy cow, 6 months to 9 months before, and I tried the breath work on my own because she had a sign up for my week-long and it was just 7 minutes, and I couldn't even do 1 minute of the breath. But I didn't also have anybody leading or sitting with me. I was just trying to do it on my own. I couldn't do it. So when Ren said we're going to do this, I was like, I'm on, 100%. And so I was so excited, yet I was so nervous because I didn't know what was going to happen. When I get stressed, and have anxiety, my stomach starts hurting. I'm like, I'm going to have to go to the bathroom. So I just, committed myself, and I was like, I don't care what I look like. I don't care what happens. I don't care if I go into an ugly cry. I don't care. I trust her, and I'm just going to experience it. And it fucking blew my mind. And I had tetany too, and it was bad. But I remember at one point in time, she had invited me to scream, and I couldn't. Nothing came out. And then I got pissed, and I was like, fuck, I can't even and what I was feeling was all of this grief was coming up, and I was thinking about my sister who passed, and I was thinking about my dad, and all of these things, and I could feel all of this sadness. And when she said, scream into a pillow, and nothing would come out. Nothing. I was just like, this is ridiculous. And so then a little bit later, she invited me again to do it, and then it was I just screamed so loud. And I also remember at one point my leg picked itself up. So I had tetany in my hands, and then my leg was just up like this, and it was just wild. And what it reminded me of was that it was just that idea that at a certain point, when we open up the space to allow our body to just release, there's no turning back. You will get to that point where there's just, you have to just be in it and just let it move forward, and just whatever shows up, you're just okay.
So letting the ego, the veil kind of go.
Yeah.
And being in a safe space.
Yeah.
With somebody guiding you.
Yeah. Because for me, guiding people, if we kind of left it up to our own, just like I did when I was trying to, it was fuck, I can't do this. Oh my gosh. Holy cow. We are in a thunderstorm. So it's just like that. When I see people starting to struggle, with the breath, I can see it. I can see them struggling. I can see their body start to shift. And then sometimes it's like, you got this. It's okay. And I might invite them to say, it's okay to be in my body. It's okay to feel this. It's okay. Whatever it is, sometimes we have to give permission. And, after we've had a little bit of conversation on what things they're dealing with or what, issues that they are here for, because everyone comes for something usually, like I've done everything and I'm just angry or whatever it is. And then, it sometimes we have to give ourselves permission over and over and over.
I've been reading this book and it talks about the ego.
Mm-hmm.
And it's says like the ego is the newer part of the brain,
Mm-hmm.
and so being able to like separate this new like evolved part of our brain that ends up usually being detrimental to us in the long run, and that old brain is where like everything can move a little bit more freely, and we can connect more and kind of express that new evolved part of our brain that is like this control part of our brain. It's the more recently evolved part
and
of
it's more conditioned to our limiting beliefs, and it's probably exactly where our inner critic lives. Probably our old brain is like our true self, our little kids that we were before we started to be conditioned. And for some people, that might not have they might not have ever experienced that as a child. Like if you have a child that's been in trauma their entire, as long as they can remember, like that ego, that limiting belief is going to be so much deeper, and it takes more work, I think, more digging sometimes to be able to release or to even recognize those two split ego and your true self.
So if someone is interested in this area, what would you recommend them to begin with or start at?
It depends. So I'm a Reiki practitioner also. So Reiki is universal energy, and it's me channeling energy to someone. And so they're on the massage table, and then I just we set intention, and I just allow that universal energy flow, the chi that we all have, to just kind of flow. And sometimes we can see things that are blocked or areas, especially in the energy centers, that are blocked, and that flow is going to go wherever it needs to. So there's these two practices that feel somewhat on that same realm because we're dealing with energy, but very different. So for someone who is just like newly coming to healing, and they're like, I know I need to heal, I have no idea where to start, I'm really scared, I might encourage them to do some Reiki first. And for the pure reason so that they can start to feel their own energetic body. So we can start to tap into some places that are stuck. So they can actually notice and become aware of places, or like sometimes in Reiki people might see or feel temperature change, temperature fluctuation, they might see colors, they might see images. Like I might get a lot of messages also that we can talk about throughout, the whole thing on things that they're dealing with. But the breath work, holy cow, the breath work to me feels like 10 times more active. So Reiki I feel like is really good for people who are so new to, I have an energetic body, like I hold emotions, like that breath work is really like that. I'm ready to actively like step into this dark forest.
Reiki's like almost more passive, almost like a stretch.
Yeah.
And breath work is like doing a set of 10 on squats.
Yeah. Exactly. Reiki is more, and Reiki's more gentle, but I always find that it's me doing Reiki on them. You know, they're just receiving it. When they're doing breath work,
they're doing everything.
They are doing it and they are receiving it, and I'm just like holding the space. So I'm not doing anything.
Kind of just guide.
I'm guiding, but I'm just the GPS. I can invite you to say this or say that or do sound here, but if it's not, you know, then you might be like, nope, we're going this way. So it's a very, like you said, it's a very, very, 10 whatever
10
squats.
10 squats. A lot more active than a passive practice.
Yes, but it's very powerful too.
Yeah.
And Reiki is powerful in a more gentle way.
Yeah. I think for me, Reiki was almost like a relaxing massage in a way. Like I fell asleep, and you know, once I woke back up, like I kind of felt, you know, what you're talking about, the energy, but for getting a little bit deeper into the nitty-gritty of self, breathwork was where I had to go.
See, that's why we have the thunderstorm.
Yeah.
Because it's like,
boom.
And lots of times when you know, like I've gone through 4 levels of training so my teacher is David Elliott, and exactly, I know. My teacher is David Elliott, and he trains people all over the country. And I've gone through the 4 levels, so you know, I can do breath work in groups, individually, couples, and then really focusing a lot on self-love and self-healing. So just really, what does that look like? What does self-love look like? What is the exchange of energy in your life? You know, really, especially when it comes to self-love or relationships, like really looking at the exchange of energy in all things, because everything there's an exchange of energy. Oh my God.
So what's the self-love breath work? What was the breath work that I did? What's that one?
Well, it's all the same.
Okay.
Yep. But if you were focusing on something to move that energy out, there really is, you know, if somebody came to me and said, I really need to work on self-love, then we're going to start to really identify some things in their life that they are feeling this lack of exchange of energy. And then really starting to tap into, like, it's okay to ask for love. It's okay to love myself. You know, and where did this come from? That's where some of the coaching comes in. Like, where was the first time you felt whatever it is that made you feel a certain way that didn't connect you to self-love? And then we can just maybe even bring those in as intentions when we start doing breath work.
Okay.
So everything can have an intention.
Right.
You know, it might be that I'm going to do breath work today because I'm feeling, you know, this anger towards my father for all the shit that he's done, you know, and I can identify that and I can set an intention that that's what I want to release in this breath work. So you can get really intentional when you know those things and release that, or you're releasing and kind of unclearing and unclogging energy. Like, I want to write a newsletter today, so I'm going to do some breath work to kind of clear things, and so that I can energize my creativity. You know, sometimes people have like these major areas of clarity when they do breath work, and so maybe it's not emotion or anything that's coming up, it's just we're clearing space so that we can be like, oh shit, yeah. that's what I need to do. You know, like I had one session that I did group work, and one of my ladies was just like, I had such an epiphany of clarity, and she was just laughing and singing while she was doing her breath work. And at the same time, I had somebody in that same practice who was just like crying so hard, and she was just like, I don't know why I'm crying so hard. She was just so sad from things that had happened in her life. And so, like, you know, there's just these, you never know what's going to happen. You're just going to, you know, commit to the breath, especially if you're on a healing journey. Because sometimes, like, not sometimes, all the time, healing is hard, especially if there's some type of limiting belief that you are trying to change, or if you're working with some extreme inner critics and or working with extreme trauma in your life that has caused mistrust, or, you know, all kinds of things. Once you can start to become aware of it and identify it, then we can start like consciously working to clear those things. And all of that takes work. And so breath work can be a tool that's used in it. You know, anytime you feel stagnant, or, you know, and sometimes it's so intense that you might have to put it on the back burner for a while.
Cool.
Yeah.
Awesome. So for people local,
yes.
so how do they set up, reach out, and get more information / set up a session?
So they can go to heartcenterlove.com. That's my website. So you can go there and check everything out. You can sign up for a consultation, so we can do like a 30-minute consultation to see what's best for you, like where you want to start, and then schedule something from there. They can find me on Facebook. I don't remember my Facebook
Heart
page.
Center? Is it Heart Center?
It's my name. I don't know what it is.
Jennifer Martin?
I think it's Heart Center Healing. I don't know. Will you tag it on here? Okay. And then Heart Center Healing is my Insta. So you can message me on there. Lots of times I'll have people just like, hey, I'm interested in doing. So I don't have a lot of people that book me online. They usually like send me a message like, tell me more about this, and then we'll just schedule something from there.
Cool.
Yeah. It's pretty awesome. And again, there's many different things that we can do. And usually a breathwork session is an hour. Reiki is an hour. Breathwork, we're not doing it for an hour. We're doing it for about 36 minutes. So 26 minutes of that is active breath, and then the rest is just resting. And that is equally as important as your breath. And then we just talk. You know, it gives you time to get up. Sometimes people can't get up for a while. It gives you time to get up and just kind of, then we can share what's, you know,
Kind
what came up. Yeah.
What happened.
Process. Give you some ideas and things to focus on, you know. When we do Reiki, it is an hour session, and usually I'll draw an oracle card and some stones that go to support you in the session. And so after we've talked about everything that's come up for you and me, then we'll look at those cards, which are usually like spot on always. And then also the stones, what I usually do is do a session notes after that. And so give you the description of the stones that were chosen, and you'll get a copy of the card and its description, and also anything that came up during the session. And then it also has the energy centers, because I will always go through the energy centers, see what's blocked. I'll check them with a pendulum and see if energy is moving. We try to clear it. But if not, it's work for you to do. You know, it's things that you can work on. I find that people get a lot of insight from the things that have come up. And I have learned myself that when things come up, like they're not figments of my imagination that is just coming up, you know, like I remember one time I did a session and I just got this visual image in my head of, you know, grandma and it looked like grandma's house outside on the porch swing. It felt like a grandma. I mean, I don't have grandmas. I didn't grow up with grandmas, but it felt like this. I'm at grandma's house, and I smelled apple pie. And so I was like, what the fuck? So then when we got done, I have learned that, when those things that come up, that just come up, are not mine. And so when I had said something, she was like, oh my God, my grandma used to make apple pie, and I was thinking of my grandma. So sometimes people, they get these images or they think of someone, and that kind of comes through in the session. And so I have learned that if it just pops up, sometimes I'll feel sensations in my own body. If I'm working on someone who has a hard time maybe speaking their truth, sometimes I'll feel it in my throat, and it's like, especially when I get on certain areas of the body, because every part of our body represents something energetically, spiritually. And so I've kind of, my guides and I kind of know if I'm feeling this, to me, this means masculine energy or, father figure or something. And so, masculine energy has a very active yang energy. Or I might feel, like scattered or stressed or, just like, or I might feel really calm. Sometimes I feel like I'm just like floating in a boat on the ocean, and it's just, so there's just so many different things that happen. And so to be able to bring all of those things up, then, someone's usually like, that makes sense. I know it does. It might make sense for you.
Yeah, when I work with clients, I think the biggest thing is being able to manage stress. And when we're in the gym and we're working out, like, we're creating stress doing that. And then we have everything outside of the gym, personal life, trauma, and like work. And I can slowly see, especially with the people that I work with over a long amount of time, like 6 months, 7 months, a year, and I can see them like go through these high levels of stress. And it seems like during those periods of like high stress, like something like breath work, because a lot of times people don't know why. Or like I'll ask them, I'll say like, well, are you stressed? And they'll say, I don't think so. I'm like, okay. Because the app that they connect, if they have like an Apple Watch or a Fitbit, like their resting heart rate will be a huge indicator. Because if their resting heart rate starts to go this way, they're just staying in this like stressed, sympathetic state. And over time, then like whether it's like gaining lean tissue or losing fat, like when those stress levels are high, like those goals just get put on the back burner because the body just doesn't work. It doesn't burn fat right. You can't build any lean tissue because we're just over stressing everything, and then they don't even know what's going on. So being able to come into a space like this and like stop and become a little bit more self-aware and go through the whole thing and have the ego kind of take a back seat, I think real quick you'll be like, oh shit, there's a lot of stuff going on. And being able to understand and become more aware of that and being able to manage that. I don't know how many times I've told clients, like, do something relaxing, like take 10 minutes and just like sit in silence. And like try and calm and become self-aware. Like this is a great practice, I think, to become more aware of what's going on so that you can manage going into the future.
I think in that sense, lots of times when I talk to people, we might talk about those things, because I'm a yoga instructor and, lead people in meditation. But when we can hear things like, once you start to slow down like that, especially if you're dealing with a lot of trauma, your brain is not going to shut down. And so you're just silently But if we can find something that's meditative, whether it's walking or crocheting or something that their hands or their body is moving, sometimes that slows people down instead of just sitting and meditating, because people are like,
that's a good point.
I can't meditate, but I can ride my bike and be relaxed for 10, 15 minutes. That's something that's not working out. Or I can go in my garden, and that's 100% helpful, because they've got their hands in earth and they're doing some active something, and then they're calming. So we got to find ways that, because sometimes stillness and quiet don't work, triggering for a lot of people. It's there, and we never know what it is, and sometimes they don't know. And until you can get people to be like, when was the first time you felt that? What was happening? What are the thoughts that come in when you get triggered? And then we can backtrack. So sometimes, when they're sitting down, like, I need to meditate, and then it's like, their brain's like, you're fucking crazy. You got all this shit to do. You never do anything. This is so lazy. This is ridiculous.
I can't do it either.
Yeah.
I can't sit. I can take. Usually, if I take 5 to 10 minutes, I end up just taking a nap, which is fine too. But I like that point, because if I paint, that's when I can really slow down.
Yeah. So you got to find
one of the times
what works.
Yeah.
And breathing, breath work, you can even just, and if you're watching the breath, and sometimes people will get off on that too, it doesn't make sense to them, but if we can add a different sensory thing, feel the breath going in through your nose and out through your nose, or visually imagine or notice if, the in-breath goes in through the left side and out through the right, into the left, out through the right. So you just kind of have to find, and that's I can help people with that too. Once I know what's happening, I can give people more tools and techniques to,
Excellent.
Yeah.
Cool.
Or yoga. We've got yoga happening. Yoga, I have learned, it's so funny, because years ago when I started yoga, when we were really heavy into the religious community, I remember someone very specific in our life said to your dad, yoga is the gateway to hell or the devil or whatever. And so, just recently, as you go deeper into these tools and techniques that are very spiritual, very esoteric, or very psychedelic, whatever, it's like, holy shit, he's right. Yoga is the gateway. Yoga is the gateway to deeper things. So for people who, sometimes they come to yoga for the physical benefits, then they start to notice things or become aware when they're on their mat. Or I oftentimes tell people the patterns you have on your mat are the same patterns you have off your mat. So I can really tell with people based on what's happening on the mat, they probably have a hard time accepting or being able to fall out of a pose and come back in. You can tell a lot by someone's personality just based on how that works for them. And so when you can start to slow down and start to get in touch with your body and your breath, then you can sometimes people stay there, but usually they start to progress to other things, and then they start to, do a little bit of meditation, or, I'm gonna try this. I get so many people who are so new to this energy, and they'll call me and they're like, I've tried everything and I think I need something different. I know nothing about Reiki, I know nothing about energy, but someone said I should come to you because they have this huge, and I need that because nothing is working for me, and so then it's like, come on in. Or they know nothing about crystals, and I always give them a rose quartz because it's a love stone, and a clear quartz because it's all about clarity. So then they can start using, they take those home with them. I give them essential oils. They can start using plant medicine. And then they start exploring on their own. And then sometimes, lots of times they come back and they're like, I need another session. Like last time I was here, I had these big things, and we'll have that. We'll have these big things that happen or this big awarenesses. And then we go back into our lives and we just kind of get back into the rut. And we get back into the limiting beliefs and the ego kind of takes over because it's been a long time. Like,
oh, yeah.
We're conditioned for a long time. We can't just uncondition and learn something new. We can't just heal overnight. Like it's very spiralic. It's very cyclical. Like, and all of those things. I think people that are trying to heal or become aware or learn something new, it's something that they have to understand. I mean, you probably see that when you're personal training them. Like they're doing great and then they fall and then we got to sometimes start over, and starting over is not bad. We just need to it is what it is.
Yep. It's like, that reminds me of mobility. Like kind of like the self-awareness or the working through with like breath work and everything is like, people feel like this energy, or they have the epiphany or the clarity or whatever, and then as there's always the ego. It's always there. So
Always.
Like over you have like this awesome experience or whatever with breath work, and then like 2 weeks, 3 weeks, 4 weeks go by, and then you get back into that same kind of level of thinking, and you gotta go in for another session.
Yeah.
It's just like mobility. Like I'll work with someone's hips for a while. Like we'll spend like 6 weeks just working things, and they'll get to a point where it's way better than it was, and like, okay, cool, let's do like squats now and use the leg press, knowing that like you can own that position. And then maybe 4 or 5 weeks down the road, maybe they went to Colorado or something and they sat in a car for however long and they didn't move much. Like they come back and see me, and not necessarily back to square one, but we have to work on that mobility again.
Yeah.
So it's like one of these things you kind of like, it's a constant revisit to.
And we also have to remember, like, our bodies are our house. Like, you don't not clean your house for a year.
Yeah.
Like, sometimes we're constantly, like, we have a hairy-ass dog that leaves hair everywhere. We're vacuuming every day, or we don't, and and so we have to open the windows, we have to do this, and we also have to remember that every experience that we experience moves through our body. Like, our bodies are with us, so that physical part of us, like, is affected by our emotions. If we're really angry, we might get tense someplace. If we're anxious, if we're dealing with people who cause us to question our worth, like, the whole time we're visiting them, we're going to be holding on something in our body, and then we leave there and we don't know why the hell my hip hurts or I can't feel my glutes, or it's because that emotional part gets through the body. And so we have to just remember, and when we're having a hard time with mobility, it might be like, what's been happening? How am I feeling? What emotions have been overgoing? Have I experienced some type of trigger? Because when we experience a type of trigger that is related to a trauma, it's going to release certain hormones in our body. And sometimes if it's elevated all the time, we've got a lot of cortisol in our body. We've got a lot of this in our body. And, so all of those things, have to sometimes be taken into effect or into thought process. And I don't think that we are so deeply connected to our bodies that way that we think that way. I mean, I feel like I'm deeply connected, but sometimes I forget those things. So
There's one thing from my breathwork session that was, I guess I could say, like, profound as far as like going forward for me, is when you started. And did you have me take my shoes and socks off?
no.
Just my shoes?
Yeah.
Okay. So I think there's like a point when we started and you had, maybe were my feet planted? I don't know, maybe not. But you just said like ground yourself through the feet.
Yes. Finding an anchor. I always encourage people to find their anchor.
And so for me, like even for like everyone listening and watching, like when was the last time you took your shoes and your socks off and like stood on dirt and grass and just like grounded and connected with the earth? And it may sound silly, but like for me, it's just like this really nice feeling of like the anchor and being grounded and like connecting with the fact that we're on a rock flying through space. Like we're all like a part of the same stuff.
Yeah.
Like we're all connected, and like that going forward was nice because I could like go outside and just stand and be like, okay.
And I'm a visual person, so just that visual of you letting down your anchor and getting, if the anchor goes down, like your boat's not moving, like you're there. And so especially when things just don't feel like they're in your control, like you have to find something that, and if it's in your body or something that resources you, going out or painting or, breath work or being with your family or, whatever it is, those are the things that you need to find, especially when it feels like emotionally things are going fucking crazy. Yeah, grounding is really important. I don't think people do it enough because it sounds so woo-woo. Like, you want me to what?
Stand in my bare feet? No, it works.
It works.
It's
often in yoga, like I'll have people like shift back and forth into their feet, spread their toes, like because sometimes we're like never fully grounded, so we're never in our balance. So we have to just kind of feel the four corners of our feet and just
It's very interesting because before that, like I hadn't stood with my bare feet on the ground in I don't know how long. I work and come home and then I just am inside. So like going outside and standing with my bare feet on the ground was like,
it's called earthing.
Yeah. I was like, oh.
Or sometimes, especially if you have like water is good, fire's good, earth
standing
is good.
on fire?
Not standing, but maybe sitting by a fire. Lighting a candle, sitting by a flowing stream or, any of those things. It kind of also depends on your element, like we all have a more dominant element in our body. So yours might be earth, which is a lot about stability and security and earthy things, this solid energy.
What's water?
Water's emotions, fluidity, being able to kind of ebb and flow. And then you can also think in that sense also, water has so many different, it could freeze, it could be cold. And so if you're a water element, like, maybe it's boiling or it's mist or... you want to be able to have this just nice flow. It's not going like flooding because that's kind of overactive. Frozen is kind of like stuck energy. You just want it to... But yeah, it's emotions. It's that emotional part of us.
Very cool.
Wind is like more of the mind and the brain thought process. The thoughts that we have, that's more of that wind energy. Fire is, more of just that fiery part of our personality or passions or desires, the things that... So people can be really fiery. And that same thing, like they can burn out of control and just take everything down with them in that quest for passion and purpose. Or not be lit enough, and then no one's getting warm, nothing's getting cooked. So
Yeah, that's a problem.
that's a problem.
Where are we at here? Okay. I
Cool,
think
cool.
We'll wrap up there.
Yeah, you got to experience breath work. Like,
Highly recommend.
highly recommend, especially if you are on a journey of healing, or you know that things, and I think everybody's on a journey of healing. They just don't know where it is. And sometimes, when you get on that path, like if you're on that path, actively on that path, like breath work is such a powerful, powerful practice to really connect you
Yeah,
to your body.
I would compare it to like you have a health goal, health or fitness goal, or you want to lose weight, you want to gain muscle. Like you go to the gym, you hire a trainer, and you start working out. Like that's what breath work is. Like with healing and the awareness is like an active thing that you can do.
Yeah.
To start.
Yeah, and I encourage people after they've come to my session, like, you can do this on your own. Like, it's something so easy that you can do on your own every day for 7 minutes. You can do it for 20 minutes. You can, and then, we also do like group breathwork sessions. I've only done a couple of them, but, then you get into a whole nother just dynamic of being in a room with everyone's energy that's also equally as powerful, to kind of experience that too. So
I gotta do that next.
yeah, I want to get you and all your friends. I wanted to do that before, but we didn't get a chance to do it. So
I got more friends.
I know, we'll have to get them in here.
We can get Devin. We'll all live in this circle soon.
Oh yeah.
Okay, awesome.
Cool.
Thanks for tuning in. Thanks for watching.
Yeah.
Jennifer Martin, everybody.
Drink more water.
Drink more water. I'll put all her contact stuff in the info on the
Call me.
podcast.
Let's do
and
some work.
the YouTube. So awesome.
Call him too.
Yeah, you can call me too.
Call him. Get in.
All right.
Cool. Thank you, Alex.
Thank you.